Welcome to the next episode of Comedy Guy. I got one more Zoom one. It's another lockdown episode. It's another episode about the early days of Comedy Estonia. It's Phil Schwarzmann. He's an American who used to live in Helsinki, and he's a real good friend of mine. 10 years ago, when we were first doing the first Comedy Estonia shows, Phil was living in Helsinki. I had been living in Sweden, hanging out with Joe Egan. Maybe you saw the podcast with Joe Egan. And I had to get the fuck out of Sweden, and my best choice of place to move was Helsinki. And think about that for a second, how fucked your life has to be when the best choice you have is moving to Helsinki. And we just done the first Estonian shows, but they weren't really a thing yet or something like that. There's a comedy scene in Finland. Phil was there running this English comedy night at a venue called Manala, close to the center. We still do comedy shows there to this very day. And I helped him run that show. It was an easy ferry ride over to Tallinn to keep doing the Comedy Estonia shows that we just started. And Phil's a great guy. He's a funny guy. He's an enthusiastic guy. We were both just trying to fucking make it as comedians and improve and get better. And we just got good old stories about what it was like to start off and what it was like hustling in the old days when we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We didn't know what this whole thing was or nothing. And there's a great video that I'll link in the description of, it's legit from 10 years ago. It's on YouTube, and it's Phil and I handing out flyers on the streets of Helsinki in like November to like just pissed off Finnish people. And we're like, hi, you want to come to the comedy show? And they're not having any of it. So we were hustling. We didn't know what we were doing. And yeah, I just wanted to catch up with Phil. He lives in, he got his golden parachute out of Finland. He lives in San Francisco now. And yeah, just to catch up. It's a Zoom one, so the video is going to be a bit dodgy, but hopefully I've got the good audio. And yeah, just thanks for listening. Thanks for the support. Thanks for all the good messages. And I'm glad that you guys have liked all the stuff we've been doing in lockdown. I intend to keep doing more videos. Maybe the pace might slow down a little bit because soon the stand-up is starting. Next week, we're starting stand-up shows again. Open mics, 50 people. We're following the rules. We're doing what Yuri says. So there might be a little slowdown in podcast because now it's time to write stand-up. Now it's time to perform stand-up once more. So this is the next episode with Phil Schwarzmann, fellow stand-up comedian. Enjoy. And the Zoom should be doing, I mean, the Zoom's going to have dog shit video, but it's fine. But you sound fine on my end. I got, like you piped through this mixer and I got you recording here and...
Well, I got a dog shit face, so I feel like that just kind of...
You got that hair going.
I want to be in HD right now. Hold on, let me get another. Here's a different pair. There's a different pair of Calvin Kleins. I'm like, oh, these are the ones I used just this morning. They're a little... Oh, right. There we go.
Look at this guy. He's a prop comic. He's got it all.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Hey, how about a mask? How about a coffee cup? Man, just... Shit. You give me ideas. No one's done good prop comedy in forever.
It's been a while. There we go. Now I can just recline back on the couch a little bit here.
Nice. It's been a little wild. Man, I haven't talked. When was the last time we actually spoke in person?
Fuck, bro. I don't know. When did you leave Finland? I forget.
That's such a dude thing. Like, we were besties back in the day. Talked constantly, saw each other every day. And then we don't see each other for 10 years and it's cool. Yeah. Like, we're just like, I should be like, oh, you haven't called me in 10 years, Louis.
Okay. Yeah. It's great, bro. It's great. Yeah. We
haven't talked in 10 years. No biggie.
I mean, what is it, like a couple weeks ago I talked to Joe Egan. He hasn't changed. He's great. He's still Egan. He's still Joe Egan. Woogie woogie, yeah, it's great.
I love you. Asked Joe Egan. Joe Egan was like, yeah, I still write a lot. And you were like, I haven't written that much. He's like, yeah, I still wrote a lot. And then like 2 minutes later, he did a joke that I heard 15 years ago from him. Like that. So Finnish women on the dance floor love me or something.
Yes. Like, do they
classic
joke? Do
at
they?
This point.
I did a little introduction already, so I gave them some background into how we met and where we're going with this. Yeah, I was Big Dick Club, and then there was this guy was the president, and then I was talking about how desperate my life was that my only choice was to move to Helsinki. That's your life's gone to shit when there's nowhere else you can go but Helsinki.
Yeah, I left Helsinki. 10 years there. I know.
Yeah. So when did you arrive in Helsinki?
I moved there in 2002. I met my ex, and then we lived in Baltimore, where I'm from, for a year, and then she needed to finish up her degree, and I wasn't doing shit in Baltimore. I was done with school and was kind of just bumming around, smoking weed and hanging out, and I was like, no better place to detox than Finland, right?
It's too expensive or not available.
Can't even get more than 5% alcohol in the beers at the shop, so it's a good way to. Some people go and detox in fancy places out in the hills or the forest. I go to Scandinavia.
Yeah, I guess we both found some sort of weird recluse, some sort of weird getaway in Helsinki, away from everything.
I was always so fascinated. I guess growing up, and I grew up in Baltimore, and like the idea of Scandinavia, that just was this up in the north, all these blondes, everyone's kind of homogenous. That was always interest me. Although I think I'd fall in love with any country I'd move to. But and then you go there and you're like, oh, homogeny sucks. Having just a bunch of white people's terrible. It's just the absolute worst. And I really learned to love diversity and multiculturalism by spending 10 years in Finland. And then I come back here, where the United States, in San Francisco especially, where it's just full on, we got a little bit of everything here in the city.
You're in San Fran. No, I think I might have said San Diego in the introduction, but you're in San Fran. Sorry.
San Francisco.
San Francisco. That's right.
Yeah, baby.
Fuck, so that's Robin a great...
Williams, Patton Oswalt King.
Robin Williams is dead, motherfucker.
I know. They named a tunnel after him. One of the famous tunnels when you go across the Golden Gate Bridge. There's the Robin Williams tunnel. Nice.
Someone was telling me,
rainbow.
I forget, someone in Estonia, I forget who it was telling me a story about the other day that and it was like the parents of this person wanted them to be like international, and they thought like, oh, okay, we're not going to give them fucking some super Estonian name like Siim or Taavi or something like that. So they wanted to be super international. So the first two names of the kid were Robin William. And I'm like, I don't think your kid's going to fit in. Like, if you think that's going to make life internationally super easy for your kid.
He goes by Rob now. Rob Bill.
Rob Bill.
No, well, that's why they have, I always thought that was fascinating how like I don't know if it does in Estonia, but in Finland, they have like the name police or whatever. You can't name they have to verify your name. And they don't have, I didn't think they had that in the States. Until Elon Musk and Grimes decided to name his kid, what is it? AE.
Fucking the equation for the speed of light, yeah.
And they denied the name because it didn't. There's certain characters you can use, and he used, I don't know, some weird stuff.
It's probably nothing to do with like ethics rules, and just more like the database doesn't support those characters or something.
Right. You can call your kid just Z 100 times in a row, just the letter Z. We don't care. Just needs to fit into
one of those ASCII characters in the database. ASCII character set, then it will fit in.
So yeah, they got the blue screen of death when they tried to input the name.
Wouldn't it be fun? Yeah. Wouldn't it be fun to be Elon Musk, right? As a businessman, when you're having a bad week, when you're getting bad publicity and all your shit's up shit creek, you can do two things. You can just do some batshit crazy thing, like I'm going to name my kid something insane, and I'll just call my friend Joe Rogan and go on his podcast, and we forget everything about his bad week.
Oh, should we spark something up here too, just like he did on his podcast?
Oh yeah, it's legal for you. Dang.
Big fatty. Yeah, or just it's 10 a.m. here. Sure, why not? Yeah.
Sure. Oh, I just had
I don't know though. If you had all that, you have $1 billion and you want to date Grimes. I don't know if you know much. I like her music a lot, but she's a little petite little fairy princess who doesn't shave her armpits. So that's cool. Different strokes.
It's cool, Phil.
I like her music though. Yeah, man. So you and I first meet.
Fuck yeah. I remember. Shit. You know what? I don't remember half of this shit. I know in the Joe's podcast we tell the story that we'd already been friends then, that we came over and we did that tour in the south of Sweden with Joe, and I ain't got no time for that shit, and you're flying into Malmö and we're like, I'm driving because I'm poor. And I don't know how we met before that. Just you were doing Helsinki, or was I hanging out there somehow?
For a while before that, right?
I'd come over and I was shagging Pidio and then in the comedy scene or something, and then you were just
I woke up one morning and you were just on my couch. I know, who is this guy? And it just happens sometimes. You wake up, you have an Australian in your couch.
That's right. Then several weeks later, it's like, Australian man, it's time to go. And I'm like, oh yeah, fair enough. Okay, good. It's my time. I understand.
Well, it's funny. My best mate here in the city, and since I moved here, is an Australian dude. We lived together actually in this house. And then for 4 years we were roommates, and then hanging out with you. I got a thing for Aussie dudes. What's up with that?
That's all you got. It's all you got.
Not because you're funny. I know that's
no,
not it. It must
that's
be your
not
good
it.
looks or something.
What's the jersey? What team are you supporting?
I'm being late. Sorry, I didn't put on any proper.
No, it's fine. I just
for you, but I haven't worn pants in I think I broke a record for not wearing pants since I've been a baby. Oh, this is the Golden State Warriors.
Okay, nice.
And they just moved from Oakland to San Francisco. They built a new stadium, and this is their throwback jersey from back in the day. They're wearing all that crap. So, I've been wearing a lot of tank tops and board shorts lately. That's been my.
Nice to see you. Still on lockdown over there, are you?
Yeah, we were the first to start lockdown in San Francisco and all the nation, and still are. They actually just announced that California can have hair salons opened.
You need
they announced
it.
that yesterday. Maybe gyms might get back in a couple weeks. It's funny. I ordered one of those stupid Peloton things that I finally broke down. I was like, all right. And then it's going to arrive the day after lockdown. Fucking great.
Peloton's a bike, is it?
Yeah, it's like a.
You're not allowed to just go for a bike ride?
Yeah, but then if I want to just get an exercise in the morning or something, just kind of
just go for a bike ride. Okay.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I should say that to everyone on the treadmill, just walking to the gym. You can go outside.
Right. I mean, you're talking to the guy, as you know well, still lives in the north of Europe where it's cold for fucking 11 and a half months a year. To me, you live in paradise. You live in the center of the hot paradise.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, I need to stay inside.
So I do live in one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen, and I live here. I live actually 3 blocks from the water, and I can see the Golden Gate Bridge, and and then I need an indoor bike. It's like a cult over here. It's like driving a Tesla now. It's this culty. If you ever meet a Tesla person, you know what the only thing they ever talk about is? Fucking Teslas. They go on these trips and they don't tell you about oh, we stopped off and saw Mickey Mouse. We did this. We did that. They're like, no, I got charged up at the supercharger station off I-5, and then I went down and they had a charger station at Denny's, and that's the highlight of their. Hold on, I need to wipe my face again with my underwear.
That's all right.
Yep.
We're here in Estonia. We also had a lockdown really early as well, very safe. Well, I want to say safe Scandinavian way of doing it, but Sweden fucked up. But nevertheless, we locked down early, and we're coming out of it right now. We're having open mics next week. We're allowed to do 50 people open mics. We're supposed to keep distances. Obviously, policing they're like, that's going to fucking happen. But okay.
More than 50 people at an open mic then.
Yeah, that's the insane thing. That our open mics, we have to work to keep the audience down. We have to make pop-ups. We have to make small venues. We deliberately choose small venues so only 30 people.
Of Henrik Chesek or Tommy Walamias, and you'll keep the audiences down. Just get them. That'll do it for you.
So we're I realize now, it's talking to you, how insane that sounds. Just 50 people at our open mic can turn up. We'll probably end up doing 2 shows, an early show and a late show. We're planning 5 shows in a row, 5 days of shows. We'll go to Tartu. It's such a fucking weird environment. Fantastic, but if you have scope, so weird to think that all these kids are doing comedy and they're just getting 50, 60, 100 people every open mic. That's how you learn comedy here.
I was so spoiled. I remember you started the drink bar. Was that called Drink Bar?
That was Drink Bar. That was the first one.
Open mic nights were freaking amazing.
On that, they're
God, they were
full.
packed in there. That was an amazing show. And that's that's only, you know, in the early days of the 80s comedy boom in the United States, that's how it was. It was comedy became a thing. Every single little town had 10 different comedy clubs. You could do an open mic on a Tuesday in front of 200 people. And it actually created a lot of terrible comedy because anybody could do it. That's why we look back at the 80s American comedy, and it just looks super hacky and just. And then all this, you know, everyone kept going, and they get tired of it because it's shitty comedy. Then there was the giant comedy crash of like the late 80s, early 90s. All these comedy clubs shut down. And actually what came out of it was some of the best comics that are still around today. But yeah, those you couldn't, nowadays, if you want to go to an open mic, it's going to be, the audience is a bunch of comics and maybe their bored girlfriends. And you're up till midnight. There's no real, you just, there's a list that could be 50 people long, and you sit there and wait until 1 a.m. to perform for the only other guy who's going to perform next. And and that's how you do comedy in San Francisco. But San Francisco has a huge comedy history here and culture, and they don't need to have a community here. It's San Francisco.
I mean, that's the hope that I have is that, I mean, it's like it's like any business, right? How do you have a boom? And then how to avoid the bust, right? How to avoid overheating your market. So we because we basically run all the shows, we can like manually control that. And we don't try to overheat. We're not trying to do more and more and more and more shows and shit like that. I mean, that's the hope, to not get to a bust, to just actually ride that wave kind of nicely. I mean, that's the theory. Let's see how it fucking goes.
But that works so well. I mean, I didn't start the English Comedy Club. You and I kind of took it over. There was who was the guy? Such a great guy, passed away. Just a legend in the. Yeah,
I want to say that, and I've also forgotten his name as well. The guy, the manager in Manala.
Was it Timo? No. What was his name?
Super Finnish name. With a V? No, Veiko.
Oh God, that's terrible. He was such a great guy. He started that club. There was a lot of Finnish comics who wanted to practice in English so they could, go abroad. And he did a few nights of these thing. And then Rich Lyons was a big part of that at the beginning. Awesome dude. Miss Rich Lyons. And then we took it over. You and I took it over because we just got the people in there, and that's what's great about in Scandinavia. There's just nothing, especially Helsinki. In Finland. There's just nothing to do. Friday, Saturday nights, everyone gets blackout wasted and starts fights and just stumbles around the streets. And then, so giving something to do, it's like, oh, I can drink and have a show. I mean, that's people. You go drink, or you go to the movies. That was Finnish culture, really. In Helsinki. So yeah, comedy was.
You always had such a good way. Even the way you just presented to them was so like, you had me convinced for a moment. I was like, yeah, this Finnish comedy thing's a good idea. And I'm like, no, it's so hard. No, English comedy. No, it's not that hard. I mean, it's not hard, but it's also not easy to push an English language thing, especially after they get a taste of like reasonable native comedy, like reasonable Finnish comedians. Yeah, I do get what you mean. And it is like, because we still run that venue, Manala. Your video dropped out. You still there? Oh, there we go.
Sorry, I froze there. Sorry about that.
That's all good. Manala, we still run in that exact same room. That's
really?
Like, that's legit. It's 10 years later. They're still not charging us rent. We've been grandfathered in. Like, we've been doing it for so long that awesome. They don't charge us rent. We can take a Friday night. We know that we'll always get like, if I know it's going to be low, like, I mean, a couple of times it's been like 20, 30, 40, a low number out of that 100. I might tell them and be like, yo, this night is going to be a low bar sales. But if they've got 60, 70, 80 people all drinking those fucking 11 euro beers or whatever the fuck they are.
They're up to 11 euros.
Or whatever the fuck. I don't know. If you order a craft beer, yeah. They're like,
that's a great room though.
It's a really nice room. They've done some renovation to it. They've done little decor. They just keep fucking with the lights, keep fucking with the sound, but it's a little bit nicer chairs and all that. But we still do the same thing. We got to put the chairs out every time. Everyone's got to put them away at the end. It's a bit odd to go there and like 10 years later, it's only room I think we're still doing 10 years later, exactly the same way.
That's a great room. Yeah, if you haven't been out to Manila for a night, you should definitely head out there. What about the other big room next to it? Or that was on the floor below. Is that
below? Yeah, that's really big. I guess the thing about that is that when we understood that Estonia was where it was kind of really happened for us, like it wasn't really going to push, and I moved over to Estonia and that became my focus, I realized it was harder and harder to market in Finland. And I'm no marketing genius, so I'm much better when I'm on the ground. When I'm on the ground, I can be like, yeah, it's great, we're doing all these things, but from afar, it was getting very hard to sell the Finnish shows. So we just sort of got to a stage where I could basically 3/4 pack that Manala room. It was a good night. The tickets were like twice as much as Estonia, so it paid the bills and everything. And it's been happily chugging along at that level for years and years and years. So, it is what it is. It's cool.
You're kind of the godfather of Estonian comedy. I mean, the stand-up didn't exist. It wasn't there. It'd be wasn't it like an opening act? Maybe you'd have a comic. Were you the first one to start comedy nights?
We were the first. Yeah, back in the day.
You're an Estonian legend, and you only know about 5 words of Estonian. But
I know. That's why I got employees. That's what they do.
You know what?
That's why I've got employees.
The Estonia made the news this morning. They were in the New York Times had an article about comparing Estonia's lockdown to here, because Estonia apparently is everything's done online, all your government services and voting and employment and healthcare. There's some sort of key thing you plug into your laptop or something. I don't know.
We've all got ID cards. So I've got an ID card that's got a SIM chip in it. And I can either stick that into my computer to do the verification that way, or they've got this thing called mobile ID. So it'll send, if I want to log into my bank, it sends a notification to my phone via the SIM card on my phone. I plug in some codes and it logs me into the bank that way.
Oh, wow. They were talking about that, and apparently the ex-president or prime minister is he in the Bay Area? He's a fellow at Stanford.
Oh, it's probably Ilves, Thomas Henrik Ilves. Yeah, he's the mayor.
He is. I don't know if does he live in the Bay Area? Because Stanford's just about 45 minutes south of San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean that's it's cool. It's not quite the utopia I think that the New York Times is presenting, but then again, like, we always think all the shit isn't as good here, but probably compared to what you're facing in America and the bureaucracy and all that shit. Because with our lockdown, I mean, we locked down early for Europe and we're just coming out of it, like I was saying. And I just checked today, Estonia, 60 deaths. That's it. Like, socially obedient people, and for better or for worse, I'm not sure which is better, but no one's fucking. We're getting like 5 extra a day. We're opening up. We're not really getting too many extra. The curve isn't unflattening. I don't know what going back up again. So, but then again, I mean, we got so much. We're just
erecting.
We're a bunch of we're a bunch of country bumpkins here. So we can just, it's pretty easy to hide
Sweden,
away,
right? And that doesn't surprise me.
Bro.
They had. Come on, they were killing up into the 70s. They were still practicing what the heck's it called? I can't think of it. It's too early in the morning right now. Eugenics. Excuse me. Eugenics. So they've been thinning the herd for a long time. And up until, what was it? If you were trans and you wanted to have an operation, you had to be, I'm going to use the wrong terminology here. Not
castrated or sterilized or some shit like that.
Sterilized. I think that's might be the.
Dude, I just can't.
So they've been trying to kind of make the master race for a long time. So this all just kind of.
Was I getting the wrong idea about Sweden? Because I was thinking they're all fucking enlightened, and because they've got that Swedishness, like, oh, we're so smart, we're Swedish, we know everything, and like someone told me, like, they're like the smart girl in high school who suddenly got pregnant right at the end of high school. Like, I did not expect this from Sweden. I thought that they'd be super clever and high always. So we had lockdown because that's a safe and sensible thing to do. They're like, nah, fucking kill them. We don't get, like, they don't seem to give a shit. Like Joe, he's going out to bars, they're partying. Like, I don't know.
They don't care. Well, that's half the United States right now. I think less than half. But yeah, there's half the population care, doesn't give a shit, and the other half arguably gives a shit too much. So, yeah.
Because, I mean, that's where you're in San Fran. That's like center of wokeness. Is it?
Yeah, but we're a bunch of like, we act like, but we all have good jobs and a lot of white collar stuff here, and like we're fine. It's very expensive to live in San Francisco, so people are doing well. They have savings. Like we're in a bubble within a bubble within a bubble.
Okay. Where are you working for? I guess you don't need to say the company, maybe, or who gives a shit, or the industry.
No,
at least. What are you
I was
doing?
with Nokia for 10 years. 10 years.
Okay.
And then I moved. That's how I moved back here. They opened up an office in Silicon Valley and moved out here. And after 10 years of Finland, I had done my time and was ready to move on. And then got laid off about 9 months after. The Microsoft bought them and laid everybody off. And then been with switch companies and been there ever since. We've been really happy with this new company. And I came here. Half the reason I came here was to get involved in the comedy community here. That was the big thing. I was like, I stay in Finland, and I can be the big fish in the little pond maybe, but just kind of, I got tired of doing my own jokes. I was just like, God, I was watching, who was it? Hannah Gatsby. Do you know her? She's Australian comic. She has a new special that came out yesterday, at least here. And just like the first 20 minutes was like the differences between Australians and Americans. Like, Americans are dumb and Australians, she literally was like, we call it a fanny. But here.
Where are you going? Where's the Zoom?
I was like, just doing just forever. Just Finland, United States.
Well, the Zoom's dropped out for a second there. This is a great retarded face you have here on this video.
Oh, shoot.
There we go. Now you're back
Hold
again.
on, yeah.
Good. Yeah, we haven't got that good broadband in San Francisco. I hope it's not my end. Oh, Jesus, probably my end.
Here. Internet has become unstable. Give me 1 second. Oh, fuck me.
Is it your end or my end?
My internet. It might be.
I'm running this off 4G. It might be mine.
Zoom's a pain in the butt. Hold on.
It needs some button that says, it's this person.
Me. Give me 1 second here.
That's fine. Oh, I can cut this. It's great.
Hold on. I switched mics here.
Oh, yeah, okay, I can hear that.
Shit. Bear with me 1 second.
Yeah. You're looking all right now. You're getting there.
Nah, it's using my other mics. Hold on here. We'll cut this part out.
Yeah.
It's like one of my sets. It's just like strong start, really shitty in the middle. Probably gonna end really shitty.
I'll give me a chance to write a note.
Let's take 2 here. All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, okay.
And really, that's your main. So you're talking about Hannah Gatsby and the new special. That's the big problem you have with Hannah Gatsby.
Well, that's why I wanted to. I was watching her last night, and it was just the first 20 minutes was just comparing Australians to Americans, and it was literally just. It was all the cliches I've heard, and it was literally like, oh, here we call a fanny, you call a fanny and we call it a pussy, and da, 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 da. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, that was going to be me if I stayed in Finland. It was just going to be like, Finns are like this and Americans are there. And I was like, I just couldn't stand my own jokes. And I knew I was like, I have to go. I got to go. And if I'm actually going to be a real comic, I need to go to the States and be among my people and make it there. And I burned. I came in. You and I were doing theaters and touring, and then I come here and start doing open mics and just dying, just fucking awful. And you can't do any Finland jokes because every joke would have to start off with like a 2-minute setup of explaining what Finland is and where it is, and then it wouldn't be funny. So I wound up actually like I was just burning and crashing and burning at open mics for a long time. And I decided to throw away all my material. And I heard of famous comics doing this. Yeah. And they sometimes do this several times in their career as they get better. They take all their stuff and they just throw out the window and they start from scratch. And that was one of the smartest things I ever do. And I got better from that. And it was tough. But I did get better from that. I realized half my stuff was just hacky and I didn't really understand the United States. It's really weird to come back to a country you haven't been in 10 years and learn. I had to learn how to become an American again. Not only an American, I had to learn how to become a Californian, which I never lived here before. I learned how to be in the Bay Area, the Silicon Valley. That's a whole nother thing. And just learn how to really be excited when you talk and just everything's cool and awesome and okay, great, and all that kind of good stuff. Literally, because it's funny, you said to me, hey, let's do a podcast. And I was like, yeah. And you're like, okay, let's mark down some calendar dates. And I was like, whoa.
Whoa, man.
Hey.
Whoa, square. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm free thinking.
I was trying to say goodbye and fuck you, but you wanted to actually do this thing. Okay.
You gotta lock it down. I know what you mean about falling into that trap as the foreign comedian. I think that it's... I know the process that I went through, and a similar thing to you. You start out, we're living in this country, I'm a foreigner, I'm going to comment on this, I'm going to comment on that, and there's like the surface level shit that you can talk about. And I think that's what we were doing back in the day. Finns are like this, Estonians are like this, drunk, alcohol, cold, blah, blah, blah. And I think, and eventually you've got to move on from that, as you know. And I think it's not, at first it's not obvious. If you stay in that environment, you are able to leave and, reinvent yourself that way.
Yeah.
If you want to stay, it's not obvious at first how to do it. There's a few ways of doing it, because eventually that shit gets old. That shit gets old for you doing that material, and eventually... Like if everybody, like especially in Estonia, so small audience base, even though we talk about hundreds of people coming to open mics, just the small population means really it's still a relatively small fucking amount of audience that you're getting. And just for yourself, for your audience, and eventually like the audience knows who you are, at least in Estonia. That I feel like, they don't want to hear that same shit from me. They've heard that. It's the same joke redone and retold in 20 different ways. It's the same observation.
Right.
You don't talk, chicks are hot, it's cold, all this crap. And I think it's not obvious you've got to move on from that. Like, just like any comedian. Okay, you start out writing fucking dick jokes or whatever, and you got to move on, but it's not obvious how to move on. Some people, one person who's doing it, I'll tell you about how I did it, but there's one person who's doing it really well, is goddamn Al Pitcher in Sweden. Yeah. Remember Al Pitcher, the New Zealand guy?
Yeah, he's super funny. Yeah, super funny guy.
Because he's so good. He's just so, like, Al's really interesting because Al almost, because he's just a funny, like, knockabout, silly.
He's kind of always on kind of comic, right? He's he's very stream of consciousness. I wish I could do that stuff. That's not me.
He's so good at, he doesn't, I don't want to be offensive to Al. Al's so good, right? He doesn't even need to get deep. He's so good at the observational. He's so good at those things that he can make that shit funny. But that's rare. Like, he's that good. He's doing, he's a tour just got cancelled, but he was about to do a fucking arena tour in Sweden. I mean, they're all dead now. There's nobody to come and watch because they're all fucking died in Sweden. But he was
the guy that took all the photos during the day and then like a show at
the Al Pitcher picture show. He's just that good at observation that you're like, fuck it, this is funny.
Yeah, no, you gotta, and it's the observational stuff. That's still the kind of comedy I do, but like doing the whole Finland, that thing. But yeah, trying to get deeper and trying to get more of yourself up there and less, more. And I know you started to do that once I left for the States, and you got a bit more personal, and you were talking about, that was kind of a trendy thing for a while, was like a lot of comics talking about mental health issues. That was like the big thing over here. There was like Maria Bamford and Mark Maron really led the way with that kind of stuff, which was great. It's tough to do. It takes a lot out of you to be open about that, especially if you're still kind of doing the corporate life on the side and talking about like I'm depressed and suicidal and my dick and then my wife and then and then you got to go to work the next day. That's a tough thing to do, to be honest, out there. I had a tough time learning how to, doing the story stuff. I got tired of kind of telling stories that have happened in my life. And then you kind of, when you write something down, like if you think about a story or something happened in your life, it still floats around in your head. But once you write it down and kind of put it into a box, that's all you remember. Like your memories now, I don't remember anything else around that. I just remember what the story that I created. And I kind of, all these memories just kind of came into these little boxes, and it's kind of hard to explain. But
do you suffer from that a little bit, that once the bit is written, it's kind of hard to remold it and add to it? Like once it's kind of out, that first draft? Just
personally, like you're that memory of you doing a story about your vacation, like then your vacation memory becomes that story and not all the other thoughts and maybe that you had about it. So it was kind of tough doing all these stories and the long form of stuff. I could never do. That's such a hard, I have such great respect for long form comics. And especially if you're doing the open mics where you only got 5 minutes, you can't do it. Or if you're telling a 10-minute long story and people aren't bought in on the first minute, then they're definitely not going to be bought in on the next 9 minutes. I feel like the English comics do that really well. You do that really well. A lot of the Irish comics can do the long form stuff really well. I've always been more of the
You've always been very punchline-y, and that's good. I came back to that. I mean, for me, I had a tough time to break out of the stuff we were talking about, that, how the stereotype stuff, the easy jokes, the observational things about the culture and all that. For me, what added on to that was that at the same time that I was going through this thing of like, I don't want to fucking do this hack shit anymore. I don't want to just talk about why this person is depressed or whatever, like, not like depressed, like, but why it's cold or why the food is bad or why the service sucks or whatever. At the same time, what was happening to me was that the business was growing here. So all of a sudden I've got 1 employee, 2 employees. I mean, I've now got 3 direct employees plus, and then the whole thing happening. And being the CEO was taking too much of my time, and I had to devote all my energy to that. Then, let alone that I'm performing in those shows that I'm organizing, so there's zero separation between those. It's not like, oh, I've left the office and I can switch my brain off and just go down to the comedy club. I organize that show. I'm intimately involved in every part of this organization, and it was just fucking me up I couldn't write, I couldn't get distance, I couldn't just see it as fun, because everywhere I looked, I'm like, this is business, I've done this, I've organized this, why isn't this being organized? That's not, it was hard to just chill. And it's taken me a long time to cycle back through that, and I had to really spend a couple of years not only working on myself, but working on the business to get that in a state where it's going really well now, and I'm at the stage where I can just sort of do the management, and not that I'm hands off, not at all, but just that I'm kind of better at it and trained my employees better. And now I'm actually really looking forward to going up to the stand-up next week. I was writing a bit, wrote a little bit this morning. I got some stuff. I think I'll have a new 5 minutes for next week. That's all I need, 5, and but I really haven't done anything major for a couple of years, and it's been a long road to come back around to that. And when I do that as well, and I can't just come back around to the hack shit either. I can't just come back around to the old material, but the difficulty is that being a foreigner in Estonia or a foreign land is still my life. That's still what I experience every single day. Yeah. So how to, and that was fucking me up for ages as well.
People love here, and I know fans loved hearing what others, foreigners, especially Americans, thought of them. I mean, that was gold for them. They loved it. I enjoyed writing it. Everyone laughed. And let's be honest, it's like we're making people laugh.
Yeah.
Right? You can't be that's nothing to be critical of. Like everyone's enjoying themselves. But I think you and I knew we wanted to create a great show. We didn't, money was a side thing. We plan out every show. We were fair to all the comics. We wanted to create a great show. And I think I hate when I hear sometimes you have comedy competitions or who had the best set of the night or who's number one. Like it's all about a great show. And you were a great host. You're such a better host. I didn't like hosting, but you were great at that. But the host has a job to do, and the host has to suck it up. And hosts often will have to throw themselves in front of the bus to save everybody else. And that's a tough thing to do all the time because they need to make sure the show is great. But you and I thought we always been great. We really cared about the craft in the show.
There was the craft of the show and the organization. Yeah, I guess we both had that. You've got your great American enthusiasm and everything's got to be great and it's all good and that was infectious for me as well. And I think that as Westerners, we all got it a little bit earlier that. Like the idea of this is a performance and this is an event and I don't know, we know it's a little bit showbiz. We're not trying to say we're fucking la-di-da here or nothing, but...
Well, we saw that in our home countries. I mean, I've been to tons of comedy shows, so I just took what I saw in the States, brought that back here and we made it work. I actually was hard to get do you still do intermissions in all your shows?
Yeah.
Is there a break halfway through?
Yeah.
We don't, US comedy show, whatever, have a break in between.
But do you have table service then?
But they got table service. That's the thing is they have proper comedy clubs. You get table service. And that break, I can see the pluses and minuses. It definitely kills any sort of momentum that you have. Like you literally have to it's almost two separate shows. You need to restart the show. Although the second half was always, I mean, you've been a host. What's more fun, hosting the first half or the second half?
Second, number one.
The second half.
They just got their drinks. They were lined up. I mean, if we're doing someone's hour here, it'll typically be some openers in the first half. Could be 20 minutes, could be 30 minutes, then break, then the headliner does their hour or God knows hour and a half or something, however long they do their thing. So, I mean, we do have a thing. Yeah, if it's a show, then we're not going to break up a headliner in the middle, for example.
No, yeah, that'd be terrible. But then we have a problem. They call it the check drop. The check drop is when the servers come around and bring you your check, and so there's a lot of people fumbling for their credit cards and they're not paying attention, and that's usually 10 minutes before the headliner's about to close. So that's a tough. You got to work. You have to learn as a comic to work around that when that part comes and everyone's distracted at the end of your show and you build all this momentum. What exactly do you do about it?
I think I remember some of your, not only your American enthusiasm, and by the way, you've always been far too complimentary to my work, but thank you. I appreciate that. But I feel some of your marketing skills came in. You were the one that said, when everyone's leaving the show, we should stand there and thank them and just stand there and be like, hey, thanks for coming to the show.
Yeah. I felt like we built a bit of community there. It became this like thing. And I liked, and we know we were punching way above our weight class. I mean, we didn't know shit. We were learning comedy, but no one else was really doing it. So when you're the only ones in town, and I kind of like that it's like, okay, there's this guy. We're just two dudes, and we're there, and we're thanking people because we were very thankful that it was generally like you took the time and your 10 euros to come out and do this for us. Really, I mean, it was more for us than it was for them. It was, for us to improve and get better and get on stage and I mean, shit, I would have done that for free. We did a lot of that.
There's the video that I'll link in the description, but it's a legit video that's been up there for 10 years. It's one you and I on the streets trying to hand out flyers to people in Helsinki in November or something.
I showed my girlfriend that the other day for the first time. She hasn't seen a lot of that old stuff, and that was a fun night. And the tram, you ever told the story about the tram?
Wait, Helsinki tram or Tallinn tram?
That wasn't you? Maybe that wasn't you.
Wait, there was
the Helsinki where we did comedy on the tram. That was you. Yeah, you and me. And we remember we got paid from the city. They're doing a cultural thing. And we got a mic system. We got a microphone and a speaker and went on the tram with 3T or the 3 whatever that goes in a circle. And we did comedy on the tram, and so people were coming home from work. They got on the tram, and we were there with a mic. Which right there, if you walk on a tram and there's a dude on a microphone, you're freaked out. I'd be freaked out.
I'd forgotten about that we'd done it in Helsinki. Right.
You don't remember that?
No, I remember now, and because it was out of nowhere. It was unannounced. We just walked on with this speaker and started to do it in English in Helsinki.
It was you, me, and Zoe. It was you, me, and Zoe. And we each did, because the tram did a full circle and it took like an hour. So I think we each did 20 minutes, and I don't know how I don't know if I could do that today.
No.
And people were just frightened, and I don't remember much laughter at all. And then the train would jerk around and we'd almost fall over. I think we got like paid like 90 euros for that or something.
What I remember is, okay, that's what confused me, because we did kind of copy that idea for Tallinn. And as a publicity, we did it more as a publicity stunt in Tallinn. And and we said, hey, we're going to get on at this time at the tram and then ride it to whatever the end of, but then all that happened was that like three media showed up, surrounded us with cameras. So it wasn't just us in Tallinn getting on a tram and just doing comedy. We thought maybe a few fans would show up and it'd be like maybe 5 fans and we just talk to them and it'd be cool. But then like 3 media showed up with cameras, and it was just media around us and like almost no fans, and we're like, okay, this is awkward, but okay, we got our media spot, we got our time in the. I think that was me, and I don't remember who, Evelyn Mock, I think, from Sweden was that night, and it was like a dumb, like when we were still doing, like we thought dumb publicity stunts was still a way to do things.
Yeah, you and I tried to give out flyers to the club. We got thrown out of Stockman. Then security got called on us.
Yes.
We tried to give out. They just don't have the culture of giving crap out. Like here in the city, it's often you're on public transportation and there's performance artists, and they come, they put the boombox down, they do their dances, they go collect money. You have people giving stuff out. They never had that in Finland at the time, at least. There was just nobody.
That flyer may as well have said, hey, take a flyer, it's got AIDS. Like, that's how they treated us, it's got some AIDS. You want herpes? Here, have some herpes. Like, that's how we were treated.
Well, honestly, I don't blame them. I don't take anything. When someone tries to give me something, because we were just trying to give a flyer out. Usually here in the States, if there's a follow-up. If you take something, suddenly you have somebody following you want to talk about whatever's on there, or if they give you a CD, then they want $5 for their mixtape, and then you got somebody, then you're, so yeah, I treat like those flyers have AIDS. It's exactly right. Exactly.
So there was the comedy club.
I heard Stuart Johnson's writing a book now. He's Stu's writing a book about Estonia.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
You don't know? Okay. Well, because I had How to Marry a Finnish Girl, which is available on Amazon and.
So let's tell us about that. You wrote that. So you wrote a book before you left Finland. You wrote a book. You wrote a book called How to Marry a Finnish Woman. Did I just mention
that? I'm glad you brought that up.
It was number 1 it was on the charts in Finland. You could see it in the store.
I think that's just because I moved it from the number 1 spot on the shelves. No, I think, people kept sending me photos of it because I had come up with a book. I'm real smart. I come out with a book, and I literally, like a month later, I leave the country forever. And so people were sending me photos of it, like at Suomalainen Kirjakauppa, like the big downtown bookstore. They had the top 10, and it would slowly move up move up. I get pictures of it. Then later you get pictures. Friends would send me pictures of it in the bargain bin, like literally, like with the 99-cent thing on like I was like, that's the end of that one. No, but I'm real proud of it. It's on its 12th print edition.
Holy! So it's still is it still being printed, or what's its current status?
They send me every time they print another edition. They send me 10 copies in the mail. I haven't. It's been 2 or 3 years. In fact, I was talking to them about doing another chapter, because everyone's joke when I came out with it is like, oh, when you get a divorce, you can write How to Divorce a Finnish Girl. And sure enough, I got a divorce. So I was like talking to them about writing like this another chapter and sticking it in there. But they seemed like they're like, yeah, if you write it, we might put it in, we might not. And I was like, well, Okay, not that serious.
That's the book business. Okay, it's not really a rising industry.
But I heard Stu's doing. Mine was a parody of a travel guide to be Finland. How to move to Finland, how to live in Finland, how to date in Finland, and marry, how to get a job in Finland, work in Finland, all these kind of things. But of course, it was just taking the piss on the country and the people, which I don't think that would fly in many other countries. If you wrote a book, you're a foreigner, and you come here and you're like, your country sucks. I can't see people in Italians being like, this is great. Like, no, only Finns, and I'm sure Estonians would be on that list too, have that dark, thick skin, dark sense of humor that would find that.
It's a line. As a foreigner, it's definitely like a fine line to walk. Like, how much can you kind of go at it? I'm still not entirely sure. Like, as my status in Estonia, I think that it's reasonable, but you never quite know, and that can change. You can suddenly perform to some people who don't know who the fuck you are, and then it's like, who is this guy? Fuck this guy. But then I asked my girlfriend how does she perceive me, and she's like, you're just an Estonian who doesn't speak Estonian, and I'm like, oh, so you think I'm retarded? She's like, yeah, basically. So. Yeah, maybe that's how by the time... Because half the time, what I'll do with my humor, if I'm trying to... as part of the joke, I'll claim to be whoever the fuck I need to be part of the joke. So I might say I'm Australian if I think that will be the better angle in the joke.
Right.
My family's Romanian. I'll use that if I have to. It's a bit confusing, but I'll go with that. But I'll just say, hey, we Estonians. And if I just present it strongly enough, they'll go for it. And I can be on the, like, I'm with you. I am on your side and I'm talking about it. Oh, we in Estonia or something like that. You've got to just present it with enough authority.
Yeah, you got to balance that for sure. I know that's how it all started. I had when I first moved to Finland, I was writing a lot about my experience on like a forum.
The blog. That's how we met. The blog.
Oh, was that it?
You had, I knew the blog. Yes. That's it. I knew the blog, and then that's how we made contact through that.
Oh, nice.
Is that still up? Finland for Thought?
Finland for Thought. Yeah, I started that in like 2000. I was writing a bunch on this forum. There was a lot of foreigners in Finland, and then I was like, I had all this stuff, but it gets lost in the forum, and then blogging just became like a thing. Like, it was very early stages of blogging, and so I started my own blog, and it got really, really popular. I was nominated for some Finnish bloggy, and tons of traffic. But then I get a mixture. I had to balance it. I couldn't just criticize Finland too much. I had to put in stuff I like about it as well, and I did. And I was definitely had a love-hate for sure. And so then I knew I was going to move back to the States, and I was like, all right, I got this blog I didn't want to just I didn't want to just stop writing one day. I wanted to like create like a kind of master's thesis. It's like, here's everything I've learned into one thing. And that was the book. And I contacted a publisher, and then they were all about it. And then I wound up pitching it to some other publishers, and everyone was all in, and I picked Gumarus, who was fantastic. They're the oldest publisher in Finland, one of the real big ones, and they were fantastic, and really let me kind of write what I wanted to write. And then they, and then that came out, and I moved to Finland, and then moved back to the States like right after. I still get emails to this day. It's usually a lot of like hate, because the book, I don't even remember the book cover. I wanted to create this like 1950s style Americana look, and I wanted to have a foreigner with a Finnish girl, and so I had there's these kind of arms, and they kind of look like, you're not sure if they're like grabbing her or holding her, or they have these brown arms around this cute little girl. And so I get a lot of hate mail still to this day. Just literally 3 days ago, random person said, if I ever come to Finland, I'm going to punch your teeth out, or something like that. Yeah,
wasn't there controversy about the skin tone at the time, of the skin tone of the hands?
Well, originally I wanted to do, there's a very famous Finnish painting that's part of Finnish folklore. I forget the name of it. It's a woman, this kind of maiden, who's walking in a lake naked with long hair down to her titties. And there's a guy, kind of creepy guy, who is kind of following her. You're not sure what's going on exactly. Is he chasing her? Is it good, playful? You don't know. So I wanted to create that image, but just make it a foreigner-looking guy, right? A foreigner, seeing their famous painting that they all love, and make it a foreigner And that kind of got shut down. And so we wound up with this kind of thing. So I kind of wanted to piss people off, and I did. And that's why if you go on Amazon and you read the reviews or Goodreads, I got a bunch of 1-star reviews, and no one actually read the book or bought it. They just hate the cover, and they think my last name is Jewish. So I got a lot of anti-Semitic stuff. I'm not Jewish. It's great. It's good.
Right. And I can't remember at the time, was there something about that, like you had selected the skin tone, but then when it got printed, it was slightly different or something, just through the printing process or something, and it came out like darker than expected, and then that gave a weird concept like, oh, we're presenting it about dark guys. I don't know. Fucking.
I'm good at marketing, man. I wanted to sell books. It was funny. They gave me an editor who was terrible, and they gave me an English speaking editor because I had a Finnish guy who was great, and then they got this woman to do the editing because it was the first English language book I think they've ever printed. And some of the publishers wanted to do like half in Finnish, like do a Finnish and English in the same, and then let's just do it in English. And they hired this girl to do the editing, but they didn't explain to her like who they were marketing it to. Like this, she thought this book was going to come out in the United States, and so she was writing it as if Americans were going to read it for the first time. Anyway, it was a huge disaster. That's why if you find the Hunt Down edition #1, there's a ton of fucking typos and mistakes in there because that weren't fixed. It's a rare. If you can find version edition #1, there's a lot of great
99 cents in the secondhand bookstore.
Typos. No, man, that's a rarity, man. You got to frame that, bag it. I'll sign it for you. Something, put it on the wall. It's like a rare baseball card. Yeah. That. Yeah, and then I moved here, and then we had that big tour. Oh, you did that. God, remember we had that. You had our names up on a billboard, didn't you? That was you, right? You had this big billboard, and you had all these different shows when we were doing it at the Apollo Club. And wasn't that you? You did.
I think so. Well, I think our names. Fuck, because I forget everything, man. Like that's why I need you to prompt me because I forget. I don't know if it was the weed over the years or I'm senile.
You got us a big billboard, or maybe you and Apollo must have did it. They probably funded it.
I think Apollo did it. I think English. I didn't really. I wasn't like, yo, I'm getting a billboard. I think Apollo just did it because that's what they do.
And then you had all our shows, and then of course we were in every show, so you just see like Phil Schwarzmann and Louis Zezeron, on this giant billboard. And I actually walked out of it. I didn't know what was happening, and I see this billboard, and I'm staring at it, and all I hear is some guy go, "There's Phil Schwarzmann staring at his own billboard," and I was like, "Oh my god, I just got busted." Just gazing. I didn't even know who this guy was. He knew who I was, and I had no idea who this dude was.
Yeah, man, that was the hustle. I guess that was like because that was with Sami Headbuddy. And he had the Apollo deal. And it was still good kind of days back then. It was still a good kind of scene. And so fair go to Sami. He was giving us a good... We were trying and... because we sort of... I think... Because that was the Apollo Club in the middle of Helsinki. And we would get anywhere between, 50 and 200 people into that room. And when we got 200, it was popping. It was like... Great. But it's like a hard slog. That's what I've discovered over the years that like it's really good to do like 50 people English shows, maybe 100 people English shows. But when you start pushing it up to, even in Estonia where it's very popular, like 150, 200, 250, it starts getting hard. Like it exponentially gets harder to sell that many tickets to an international show. And I kind of got worn out from, and I realized it wasn't going anywhere, that we were like slogging and up and down and trying to, and fair enough, they were giving us a pretty good shot. Sami and the Apollo Club were giving us a good deal and helping us out, but it'd be a rough few months. It'd be like, no, we're going to pick up. I'm trying all this. And it was a hard hustle that I think I eventually just went, this is gonna be rough.
I hated theater shows. Those were great, but the theater shows just in general, I don't even like seeing comedy at big theaters because those rooms just really aren't built for that. And then you get, instead of people, I found that the larger the room, you have less laughter and you have more clapping. I think people feel like their voice isn't heard because they're in a sea of 800 people. So you got more long applause breaks instead of actual laughter, and there's less interaction with the audience, more of a broadcast kind of thing. So that's why I really love comedy clubs and rooms specifically built for. They're just so much more fun to do. That's and also another reason I hate comedy comedy festivals are just after 2 hours. I love comedy so much, and after 2 hours of straight comedy, I'm bored of comedy. Like I can take like 2 hours of stand up. But to do a festival where it's like, it's not a concert. You can't just comedy requires you to pay attention and to think, and your head you can't get completely wasted, and you got to pay attention, and you can't chit chat. And so, like I can go to a music festival all day and just comedy festivals. Like I don't know how they still do it. I mean, there's a big one here. Comedy Central does one every year in San Francisco, and it's outdoors, and that's another thing. You told me that we did an outdoor show in Tallinn. It was really cool venue. It was kind of up on a hill, and you had it. I
think that would have been Vablina up on the hill
beautiful venue, and it was I've learned that night. I was like, if it's cold, people are not paying attention. Like, comedy should not be done outdoors. Like it's cold weather and comedy do not mix because it is cold. And I think that's another thing. I think literally the worst night of comedy is a Sunday night. A Monday night show is always 100 times better than a Sunday night show. Monday nights, people are like, they had their first day back at work. They're already like, fuck this shit. They're already ready to start drinking and going out and doing something. Sunday nights, everyone just has the next day on their, like, I gotta go back to work. And just, it's the worst nights.
Outdoors, when outdoor works, it's awesome. When you've got the right space, it's not too open. There's it's been a hot day. There's a cool breeze. We're feeling it. Then it's the best, but it's so hard to hit that. It's really hard to roll that dice and get that correct. I'm trying to think. We do a summer tour here now. The comedians organize it themselves because we got to this stage where we were working so hard from whatever the season is, September through to May, that we would just be like, nah, we need a break. But then the comedians like, we want to do shows. And we're like, all right, we'll go organize it. So they go all around Estonia and they do their own shows, and it's cool. And it's a lot of outdoor, but it's July. It's the only time you could do it. And even then they're enclosed, and you don't want them to be too open either, because then everyone sits far apart. And and if it's just a little bit cold, which can happen at any moment around here, in Finland, at any moment in the middle of summer, it could get too cool to be comfortable in the evening, maybe around 8 o'clock or something. But we'll still do a few, but
cold weather. Yeah. That's just, I can't do it. No.
That's what I like. I mean, even what you said just then, you was talking about the way that this day for that comedy, you taught me to be very analytical about the way that we looked at the shows and the schedule. And again, it was something about I don't know if your marketing background, but you also had an intuitive understanding for people as well. And I think a lot of those ideas, like even the ideas we've taken on, thanking people after the show was something that we rolled into the way that we do the bucket here in Estonia, which is like Edinburgh Fringe, when we ask for a donation at the end. And that was where it's a free open mic, but at the end we ask for a donation. And that was a very foreign concept to Estonian people, both to give the donation and to stand there and ask. And we had to do a lot of work to be like, no, we're going to stand here. And why are we standing here? Because we're asking for money. All right, well, don't look like a fucking weirdo. Don't be like, can I maybe please have some? Like, are you proud of this show? Yes. Well, then stand there and be proud of it. And that thing that we had to train ourselves to do here very much had its roots even in, standing in Manala with you going, no, and I'm just sitting drinking my beer and you're like, nah, come on, you got to come and say good, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. That is the right thing to do.
A lot of comics would say a lot of comics would say you don't want to see the performer before the show. It needs to be the big reveal when they come in. This is the first time you've seen them. And then afterwards, I mean, it's quite common, especially in the US, for comics to be in the back selling their merch and stuff. Now CDs, people can't really sell much of that. So, I just feel there was kind of a lot of humility there. I don't know. I was just appreciative of the people. I don't know. I don't know if I was a marketing genius, but I know I was reading. There was a lot of podcasts that had started right around that time that were just other comics talking about comedy and how to do shows. And there was a forum I would be on. So I was kind of constantly reading that and learning that. And kind of nowadays, I don't think there is much about that. I would obsess over it. Before I tried stand up for the first time, I read books and just months of prep, which is ridiculous, right? Like if anyone wants to do comedy, I always tell them, like, just go do it. Don't just do it, and you move the mic stand away, and that's about it. And just go up there and frickin' do it, and you'll learn. And don't wait 6 months. But I don't know. But then it worked out really well. I did all that prep, and I had everything planned. I even thought about what I was going to wear, and I had a really good night my first night. And then if I would have bombed in flames, I might not have done it or quit. Waited later. I heard that story about Eddie Murphy. He did comedy for the first time, bombed, and then didn't do it again for another year. And of course, he's a legend now. So,
what was the place you did it first? In Helsinki?
It was in Manala. It was in that big room.
The second floor. Yeah,
the second floor room. Yeah, it was really cool. And I must have put it out on Facebook, and so I had a lot of friends. I mean, I think half the room was packed with people that knew me. I mentioned on my blog too. I saw I had people who had come, and that's why I think I keep saying his name's Timo, but it's not Timo. He let us run the club. What's that?
No, fuck. No, go ahead. Sorry, Timo Soini is the the fucking True Finns guy. Yeah.
No, I think that's half the reason why he let me run the comedy show, because every time I'd perform, I'd have a bunch of people that would come. So he's like, this guy has an audience that kind of comes with him because of the blog, or just people, nothing else. English speakers especially had nothing else to do. So that was my first time. And I have a video of it somewhere as the first time me doing my terrible, I think my first line I flubbed and had to like restart the joke. Which I think at that moment I could have just wept in tears and rolled off the stage and never to be seen again. Like I was kind of went 50-50. I remember that very well. I like started in the middle of the joke instead of the beginning and just redid it. And yeah.
I'd forgotten that the way that we had bootstrapped that was off your blog, that was sort of where you could still be guaranteed 10 to 20 people would turn up from that.
Yeah, I think it was just and a lot of people didn't know what to do. There was a lot of English speakers. There was no, you go to the movies or go out drinking, and beyond that, there really wasn't much culture for.
And I think that might be different now. Speakers. I think there's things to do even in Helsinki as a foreigner. There's a few more comedy shows, not even that, but just I think there might be a little bit more than there used to be 10 years ago, stuff to do as an English speaker in Helsinki.
Yeah. Yeah, just drinking on the weekends. That's the Finnish way, man. That's funny. I've lived in San Francisco for 9 years now, and I lived in Helsinki for about the same amount. And you go out every Saturday night, Friday, Saturday night, I'd see at least one fight in Helsinki. I've lived here for 9 years and never seen two dudes fighting, drunk fighting. I've never had anyone try to start a fight with me for no reason, or just belligerence. And just the whole, in Finland you have the famous doorman, like these they're like bouncers / we need €2 for your coat. Like they had two jobs there, and they would always they just come in and just miserable and pissy. All those ex-hockey players that are now alcoholics and sad they never made the NHL, and yeah, they'd always. If you come in, they want your €2 and you're like, for a coat. And I'm like, it's summertime. I don't have a coat. And then they try to get the money anyway. It's just like people would just be pissed angry walking in. And I don't miss. It's just because in American States, we drink a little bit every day. I live right next to wine country. So we're, you have a little glass of wine with your meal, or during COVID, you have an entire bottle with your meal, but we do a little bit of every day. So on Friday and Saturday night, it doesn't have to be like time to rage like it was in Helsinki, where they don't drink at all. I remember with my ex, if I suggested having a glass of wine on a Tuesday, she would just assume I was an alcoholic and had a problem and I was weak, and then they get wasted on Friday. It's like,
it's like the Finnish. The Finnish are just, they're not managers, they're engineers. They don't have a managerial kind of broader. They're just farmers, one generation gone on, and went, oh, we are good at Nokia too, so we do this, not farm, make Nokia now. Like,
It's true. They do have a lot. They all have agrarian roots somewhere. They grew up on a farm, or there's definite within one, really bloodline, of the agrarian.
Remember that? I remember the time that. Remember Kimmo Vilska?
Oh yeah. Of course, I know Kimmo. He's still Facebook friends with me. He comments on literally everything I write. Yeah. Kimmo.
Wait, I guess I'll tell the backstory to people in a moment. But Kimmo still comes to Tallinn, and still does our open mics. He comes over with his wife all the time. They're still just as delightful.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
And the Estonian, because we have one English, you can do English at any of our open mics, but we have one a month that is designated the English only open mic. And Kimmo will often come over for that. And so the Estonian audiences know him now, and they love him. Like, he kills in Tallinn now. Yeah. Like, he just does his jokes, and he's not a young man, but he's still got some, life in him. And it's just like this nice, sweet Finnish old man telling these jokes, and people love it. Like,
that's awesome.
It's so cool to see.
He's like an ex-hippie, an old hippie. He grew up in the States. He's got he worked for Yle, which was the Finnish state-run TV, and he's got a great voice, great TV radio voice. And he would do the English news. And so when I first moved to Finland, and I'd watch they do the Finnish news in English, and he was the guy that was the anchor for this 10-minute segment every day. And so I watched him when I first moved there all the time, and then never knew the guy. And then I think he would comment on my blog quite a bit. Maybe that's how I got to know him. And then he did his famous incident where he got fired from Yle for making a joke. They were doing a joke about alcohol consumption problems in Finland. And when they come back, he has a bottle of beer in his mouth, and he's pretending to drink it, and then he hides it real quick, which
it was hilarious.
Which was hilarious. He got fired real quick, and we had contacted him. We were doing a show the day he was fired, or the day after he was fired, and I contacted him and was like, "Hey, do you want to come up and do 5 minutes?" And he was like, "Yeah." And then he wound up did 20 minutes of we couldn't get him off the damn stage. I think you were standing there next to him, creepily getting closer to him, trying to steal the mic out. It's a common newbie problem. You gotta the light and all those kind of things. You don't learn that stuff. But that poor guy lost his job over, which is weird. I don't know why. It's not an anchor. The anchor things do, at least in the States, at the end of a segment, they're like, the weather's tomorrow gonna be a little foggy. And but they have like a beer can, especially Finns are so like, it's like Americans with sex. Like that's very taboo because we're all religious. Over there, alcohol is such a kind of a taboo subject.
Yeah, I'm going to try and, I'm just writing a note so I got the time code. I'm going to try and cut in, I guess if this is on YouTube, I can't put the video, but I'll try and cut in the still of Kimmo. You switched back to him and he's going, oh, like clearly empty, like it's like turned upside down. And it was hilarious. But there was something else as well, because I know that we called him on, and I know that, you called him up and you were like, yo, Kimmo, let's come on today. But there was some Q&A session that I did with him as well as the host. Maybe after his set or something, and we had and we talked about the incident, and it was like it had happened that day. And I know that because we're both kind of with our marketing brains, we're like, we had publicized this. We're like, that guy, that guy's going to be like hoping to flog a few more tickets.
We packed it out the house that night. We always kind of did, but we definitely.
Yeah. And there was some Q&A with him, I guess, after his set. And
maybe that we just did a Q&A the whole time and we couldn't, maybe that was it. Cause I don't know how we would be like, do you have 5 minutes of material? Like you couldn't write that overnight. So maybe that was the whole plan, is we talk a little bit and then he kind of.
It was like live podcast before live podcast.
What's that?
It was like a live podcast before that thing existed. Like, just come on the show and talk about what happened. And it was like that day, and it was like rare.
God, we've got so many we had a lot of good nights. Just, yeah.
Kimmo's so nice.
Favorite time of the month. We did that once a month, and that was my favorite shows always, because they were just so well produced. We had the great venue and always a great lineup, and then we did the open mics at I guess nothing still happened in Molly Malone's.
Christ, I wouldn't even know if Molly Malone's just up from the train station there in Helsinki is still just up from the Vapiano, which is there now. I wouldn't even know if that's still upstairs. We did something. We were trying them because we had. I mean, there's all sorts of weird fucking opportunities that we had when we were hustling. I remember. I mean, we were going to different towns as well. Sometimes, like the tram thing, the city gave us money, and I remember sometimes going up to Oulu for some reason. Like, what the fuck were we doing an English show in Oulu?
Yeah, I remember doing Tampere and Turku with you, but I never made it up there. That's a long drive, and I don't get time for that shit, so I can't be.
Tampere and Turku.
I said that once, and I love how that's the catchphrase. I just started. It's Phil. I don't have time for that shit, Schwarzmann.
Yeah.
Because we were going to. You guys were going to go. We were doing that. One of the best weeks of my life was that Sweden tour that Joe had planned for us, and we started in Uppsala or Stockholm or something. And you guys were all going to take the ferry, the kind of booze cruise overnight thing. And I was like, I'm just going to get a plane ticket. I had work or something. It wasn't like because I would love to hang out and do a booze cruise with you guys, but I was some work related thing. So yeah,
the way I was telling Joe. I mean that week changed my life. That was like I want to do comedy. Like, this is what it's like. We can do this. We can travel somewhere and hang out and be bros and just perform each night. Like, we were bullshit, but it felt like being a real comedian.
Yeah, a tour. Yeah, it was like we literally every day for a week we had a different gig and we traveled in between it. Yeah, it was my first taste of like, life on the road, which I know comics. I'm sure it all starts off great, and then when you're doing a tour of Montana and Wyoming and 20 years in, like I'm sure it's staying in, we were excited. We were staying in at Lund University. We stayed in some, I don't know, he got us some
dorm or something,
student housing or something. Yeah. We're all hanging out in. And that was Uppsala. It was a Tuesday night and that crowd was packed in there of Swedish students. And I'd pause and like cough and they'd all start laughing. It was one of the easiest nights. And then we had one of the worst nights ever where there was literally 4 people in the audience in Copenhagen, I think it was, towards the end of the tour. I remember we did a night and it was literally a group of 4 people that all worked for what's the big shipping company in Denmark? Maersk. And they all worked for Maersk. And like we just had to do this. You remember that at all? We did it for 4. We did a whole show for 4 people. And
I don't remember Copenhagen. I remember there was in Malmö.
We had a great show in Copenhagen. Then we had this other one that maybe was in Lund or Malmö.
Was there 2 shows in a night there or something? Joe had us doing like we didn't know. He's like go to this one, then go to that one, and
he planned it, man. That was very cool of him. That was great. Dude's a legend.
Yeah, it takes. I always admired Joe's ability to just work it out. Like he's the true hustler. Because that's why I was so keen to talk to him on his podcast about like, dude, what the fuck are you doing shows in Amsterdam, in Belgium, or wherever the fuck? Yeah. Like, how do you pull that off? Like, I would lose my mind.
Vatican City.
Yes, yeah. And I'll just take the Republic of Estonia. The boundaries, it's a small country. It's about 2 hours across. I'm good with this. But Joe's got to be, I don't know, this guy.
Yeah, well, I was always excited to leave Finland. Finland was just so cold. I take these terrible work trips to these day trips to London in January. I was excited because at least it's not snowing in London. Like it was a good thing to I'll just get out of here for a little while and just to go anywhere outside of Scandinavia. Yeah, I was listening to that podcast with you and Joe, and you guys were bringing up all the old times. Loved listening to it, and you guys were talking about all of our comedy buddies from back in the day and all these things. You kept mentioning it, and I was about an hour and a half in. I was like, "You guys have not mentioned my name once. I swear to God, if you mention everyone's name except mine, I'm gonna fucking be so pissed off at you two guys." And then you had a good little 3-minute long segment of good old Phil and the Sweden trip and stuff.
Oh, we remember you, mate. That was, it was, by the way, your video dropped off again, or at least I can't. I don't know. You're amazing. You're like, your video drops off and then you play with your mic. I love it. This is tech support. Oh, here we go. Oh, there we go. We're back. Okay. Who knows?
This fucking Mac. This thing's been such a
Mac's a dog shit for streaming and Zoom and all that.
Yeah, it's really this anyway. Yeah, they're I don't know. You get you locked in. I keep buying them.
Yeah, I know. I'm not going back to Windows, so I hate it, but not I hate it, but there's no.
What
G
were you?
here.
You've dated girls in Sweden, Finland, Estonia.
That is correct. Yes.
Give me, if you could sum it up, what's the difference between those three? Like, if you had to explain dating life or the kind of girls there that you would date, what's in those three countries? And Latvia too. Did you ever date a Latvian girl or Norwegian girl?
I don't know about date, but.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm
yeah. Okay, let's say there's a
date.
real good. Okay, we got to break it down. Let's try and break it down. There's a real good one between the comparison between Finland and Estonia, especially 10 years ago, because 10 years ago in Estonia, it was like, who do you think I am? I'm not some Eastern European slut. You think you can just go out with me and then we'll have a drink and then we're going to go home and fool around. And I'll be like, no.
Guys come there for like a stag night
and I'm like,
fly in and they all think they're gonna.
I'm like, I'm here. I'm doing a show or I'm hanging out. I'm clearly not just the stag. No, but you have to prove it to them that you weren't this fly in, fly out. Oh, it's like, I've been here for a year. You could leave at any moment. And I'm not some Eastern European whore. And like, all right, settle down, honey.
Okay.
Finland was, because they were never Eastern European. They were always a free people. So Finnish chicks never had that hang up. They were just like, yeah, let's fuck. Like they would never like, yeah, I know I'm not a whore. I'm Finnish. Like, yes, I have self-esteem. It's okay. And so it was never that same, like, if they wanted, they wanted. And then it was fine. And it wasn't that same, I don't want to say resistance or something. I don't know. Maybe Estonian chicks just didn't like me or something. I don't know. What about Sweden? I was traumatized by Sweden because
I'm still hung up on that girl from 15 years ago.
Yeah, totally. Like, because I moved there and I was like, I didn't know what I was doing with myself. And then there was this IT company that said, hey, we'll give you a well-paying job in Stockholm. And I just had the wrong idea. I had seen too many stock photos. I just thought they're all tall and good looking. And I'd met all these Swedes when I was traveling and they're all delightful and hot chicks. And I just thought it was the promised land. I thought I was moving to the land of milk and honey, that it was just going to be endless opportunity for me. But only then when I got there did I discover that Swedes in Sweden, completely different. They're closed. They don't want to talk to anybody new. They're nothing like the Swedes you meet in Thailand. Nothing like the Swedes that you meet anywhere else. And I went like the first 3 months in Stockholm without a date. And I wanted to kill myself. I was like, I thought I'd come to the greatest place on earth.
For the apps.
Ugh. Right, and I couldn't get anything. So I think that was my lesson, that Sweden was not the place for me. And then, even Helsinki looked like a better deal at the end of it than that.
Yeah, that's a big shock. I remember the first month I was in Finland. I lived in Finland 10 years. First month, I moved there in August, so it was still really nice. And I was just riding my bike to one of the lakes or somewhere along the peninsula somewhere. And there was these women, they're naked, they're butt naked, gorgeous, swimming in the water. And it was kind of sunset. And I was like, this is the promised land. I never saw a naked woman swimming in a lake since that. I don't know if my ex staged it. She just had everyone like, okay, Phil's coming. We got to cue the naked girl. And then I remember that then it was like 2 months after that. It was like a cold day in Tapiola, which is just outside of Helsinki. And there was a woman. I was waiting for the bus, and there was a woman taking a shit just right at the bus stop. Pants dropped, just fucking shitting, and no one was doing anything. I was like, this, what? No one seems to care that I had to step over this, and I was upset because I had to take the bus again. I think because I had a car in the States and I had to go back to using public transportation. So that combined with people shitting.
Yeah, that doesn't work for an American going back to public transport.
No, I tried that when I moved to San Francisco. I tried it. I lasted like 9 months without a car. I was like, I'll take the train every day and I'll use it. It was kind of right before Uber started. So I took the bus and that lasted 9 months. And then
That's because that's how because when I first got to Sweden, when I first got to Finland, I was still on like this weird 1-year working holiday visa. Nobody quite, because no one's coming just to Finland on the working holiday visa. Like, it's on the books. Like, there's a reciprocal deal between Finland and Australia, or Australia and the Finnish people can go to Australia for 12 months and just work at a fucking cafe or picking fruit or something. So they gotta have the reciprocal deal that an Australian can go to Finland for 12 months. But no one's doing that. Like, no one's going on their gap year to Finland.
No.
So I got that, but that meant that no Finnish authority quite understood what this visa was that I was working from. They're like, we've never seen this. Why would you do this? We've never seen this visa before. Apparently this is in the books, but we don't really understand
want to come
this.
Here? Huh?
Yeah, huh?
You were a pro at overstaying visas and doing
I had everything. I had the one for Sweden visa, multiple versions. I had, back in the day, I could, here in Estonia, before Swedbank was Swedbank, it was called Hansabank, and they could give you a bank account if you. I gave them the address of the hostel that I was living at, and they gave me a bank account, which I was then routing my IT consulting through, like thousands and thousands. And no one asked questions. Those were the good old days of money laundering. It was great.
I know. I'd be so suspicious.
And I had to, when I first got to Finland, like, they would let me live, but they wouldn't give me the personal number or some shit. And then I tried to register in the center, and I got some hard bitch who just wasn't hearing it, and she was sick of foreigners or something. And then I don't know if I was staying with you then, or I think I wasn't still staying with you, but that Australian, like you said, that fucking scamming Australian visa scamming brain of mine said, okay, well, this woman at this one office won't let me do it. Who else can I talk to? And then I went, Phil lives in a whole other administrative district. So what I need to do is cycle the hour and a half or however the fuck it took me. Again, no public transport. I don't have a car or what. I don't remember. And I cycled all the way out to wherever you were living at the fucking whoop whoop suburbs of Helsinki. Went to the office there. They've never seen a foreigner before. They're like, I'm smiling. I'm like, oh, well, here we are in Finland. And then I somehow dropped. No, the moment was when I dropped that I had just moved from Sweden and that I had a Swedish number. And they went, well, if you're good enough for Sweden, you're good enough for us. Welcome in, son. And she put me on the books and I got everything. And after that, like, the authorities are like, how the fuck did you get this number? And I'm like, well, you just gotta fucking find the right lady.
You got a Volvo outside. Just point to the Volvo. I got a Volvo.
Svenska Volvo. What is?
What else are you gonna do? Yeah, that's, oh my god.
I had to scam. Eventually, I got sick of but yeah, I had to scam. And Finland was the.
Why aren't you? When are you gonna write your book, man?
If I remember things, gee, I gotta.
You gotta lay off the herb. You gotta get that good Cali herb. I gotta send you a care package from here, man. Legal weed. It's funny. It's illegal now to get a haircut, but it's totally legal to buy weed. I got a dispensary. We call them dispensaries. They're right down the street from me. It's one of the fancy kind of types, and it's a wonderful experience.
Dang. How much is a? I guess you use ounces, so I was gonna say how much is a gram, but I don't even know what grams to ounces.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. I'll still buy. Because the price, they put a lot of tax on it, and it's expensive. There's actually still people that are still selling weed, like really good stuff. They just skip it's farm to table. It's right from the.
Yeah, sure. It's organic. It's eco.
Skip all the middleman. So, I mean, you can get an ounce from those for about $100 US. But if you go to the proper channels, like a good eighth. So is $50 or $60, cheaper stuff maybe. But I don't even buy the herb stuff. I got the little vape pen thingies. Oh, nice. Do you have those in Estonia? They're fantastic. I
mean, not with weed, but I think there's e-pens and all that shit.
Oh, let me show you something here if I can find one of them. I happen to be sitting right here. You go. They come in these little look like these little suckers.
That's a weed one. That's a marijuana.
Yeah, and it goes on. There's a battery that's like this big. It's a little
Okay,
round battery,
yeah.
and we call them cartridges, and they're full of. And there's a battery that you charge on like a USB, and you can get one of these suckers. I'll buy. This costs $30 and lasts me like I could hit it all day every day for. I don't know how long. I mean, I barely need. I take a little hit before bed or something just to help me sleep, but it's fantastic. And there's so you're not lighting anything. There's no fire. You're not disturbing people. Like you used to go to a show and people are smoking and then the plume of weed, like that's annoying. Just like someone smoking a cigarette with you. It's annoying. This way you can just take a hit when you need it and kind of shoot it up in the air, or you get the edibles thing. Now they're getting crazy with all the different types of, I mean, every single food or liquid, if you can think of it, they've infused.
That's what I would like.
It.
That's the one thing that I want the legalization for. Like, I want
great.
Yeah, I want some edibles.
Now it's you get the little. They have these chocolate covered coffee beans that I love. This brand out of San Jose, and and they're 5 milligrams each, so you can kind of dose out. Do you like? I just want to get a little lifted, or I want to get high, or I want to get it's straight retarded. Like you can. Dose. That's the problem with this. I remember when I was on my 30th birthday, I was in Amsterdam and I got a space cake. And you know, there's no dosage on there. They just gave you a brownie and you ate it, and then you were like in the bathtub, scared that they knew where you were or something. Yeah, so it's really, they got a whole little system here, but it's literally I can go down the street, buy use my debit card to buy marijuana. But if I got a haircut, that's a big no. That's the world we're living in.
Yeah. So many.
When are you gonna come visit, man? When you coming out here? I gotta
make it that. I don't know whether I'm traveling anymore. I mean, not even with lockdown, it's like the money starts draining out of the account. I think maybe you've forgotten we're comedians who can't perform right now. So we're attempting to save. We're doing all right, but we may have to reprioritize those trips. I do need to come because last year I was in Atlanta with my buddy there, having a good time in New York, and I got it because you're pretty much exactly the opposite side of the globe. So whichever way you go, it's
a little bit, yeah.
It's a long fucking way to go.
Well, you just get a plane ticket here, man. I'll take care of the rest. I got a place for you.
Nice.
Once all this is over, I got to come to San Francisco, man. You'll love California girls, man. You got a girlfriend now. So,
I got to straight and narrow, bro. Straight and narrow. You got to go. That's that same girl you've been seeing for quite a while now, right? It's going good.
Yeah,
nice.
Great. We met. We've been dating now for almost 3 years this summer, and living together for a year and a half.
Real nice.
Something like that. It's awesome. She's a TV reporter for CBS, which is one of the big networks here. So she's still working through all this COVID stuff. She still has to go out, and she's been reporting on COVID since January, doing nothing but. So yeah, I can turn on the TV at 5, 6, and 7 and watch her on TV. But she's been great, man. California girls, got to get yourself, your next, God forbid, you and your umlaut filled girl's name you're dating right now. You got to get yourself. California girls are laid back and cool and fun and just don't take life too seriously. And
it's almost like you're reflecting this against Finnish women, Phil. Why would you be doing that?
I had experience dating one Finnish girl. We didn't even really date. We kind of just moved in together, which I don't ever recommend. We met on each other on a cruise ship, and then visited each other once, and then twice, once in Baltimore, once in Finland, and then decided to move in together, which is, we spent, 20 days we actually spent together total before living together. We never actually dated. I don't recommend it. And I'm 22 at the time. And then moved to Finland just for her. Yeah, bad news. Greatest dumb thing I ever did in my life was at age 22 moved to.
That's Finland. So similar to what I did in Sweden. That I'd already moved there though, so okay, I was having wrong ideas, but I started dating that Swedish girl, and then within like 2 months, some bullshit amount like this, we were living together because I like the classic story of me in those days. I got nowhere to go. I got kicked out of whatever place I was in, and now I got to go somewhere else. And Lewis is too fucking lazy or incompetent to find his own place. The story of my life back then. And it was mega hard to find accommodation in Stockholm, anywhere close to the center. Heaven forbid that I might actually want to take a train or something like a regular person. No, I've got to live within biking distance of whatever the center or some shit. So within like 2 months, we were living together. And the only way I could justify it, like somehow I justified it to myself because I was like, well, that's what they do here in Sweden. The real estate is expensive. So it's a very normal cultural thing that people just meet and they just move in. It's like a practical thing. Worst idea ever if you want to maintain a relationship and be normal and not, kill each other.
Well, they don't do the roommate. I feel like Finland and Estonia doesn't do the roommate thing. They're not here in San Francisco. We have very expensive housing. I mean, we have some of the most expensive housing in literally the entire world is San Francisco, New York, and I mean, shit. I was living with a roommate. My ex and I broke up, and then I moved in with the Australian dude, and we lived together until he moved out, knocked up a girl, and then he moved out, and then I was living on my own for a little bit, but pretty much my girlfriend was here constantly. So, and it's quite typical. You date a girl, and she's got 3 other roommates. Quite normal, like 4 girls or 4 dudes all living in a place, but they'd never
like a share house is what you mean by roommates.
What's that?
You mean share house? Share house
they all
is what
live
you
in an apartment together.
Yeah, okay, share house, right?
Yeah. Share house sounds like crack house.
That's what we call it in Australia. Yeah, okay. It's a share house, mate.
They all live together, and because it's just too expensive, and you don't want to just move in with someone right away and do that whole trap. But yeah, in Finland, I don't know anyone who had a roommate. Never. That didn't exist. For whatever reason. Well, I know there's a law in Finland. I don't know if it's still around, but if you had a roommate of the opposite, if you lived with someone of the opposite sex for more than 2 years, you were automatically considered common law. So the state already married you, even if you just had a female roommate. Which, I mean, look, if you're living with a girl for 2 years and you're not fucking, then that's something's going on.
The law says we can fuck now. What are you?
What's that?
The law says we can fuck now. Come on, what is?
Well, yeah, right. That'd be the thing. But you're common law, and you'd have to support this person. And if there was things that related to that, you literally have to support this person. That just doesn't exist. People, just men and women don't. I mean, here you'd see people in their 20s. Sometimes men and women will live in the same place, but we all know that's a bad idea waiting to happen. You're gonna have a girlfriend in a second. If you, good luck. Like we're both bored. What do you mean it's Friday night? What should we do? No. Yeah.
Okay.
You and your girl live together?
No, not yet. We're gonna. She's got to move. She lives in Tartu still. But even when she comes to Tallinn,
great town, Tartu. I've had some great nights in Tartu.
Oh yeah, dude. In that Mökku, that downstairs bar. Do you remember that? The downstairs and those Sparta shots and
it's good times.
They were. No, we're not going to move in. We're going to give it some time. Yeah, all things need time. Who's in a rush?
Man, I moved to Finland, and I moved in with a girl right away, and we were already living together for a year. And I bought my first house when I was 25. I say first house if I've had like, oh, this is the first of many. No, I've had one house.
that one on the outside of Helsinki. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, in Espoo. Yeah, and I kind of moved. For some reason, I wanted to have. I don't know why. I don't know. I lived my 20s like people live their 40s. I bought a house in the suburbs. I went to work every day. I shoveled a lot of snow. In fact, if I never see snow ever again, I literally don't care. I literally never see snow ever again. I won't care. And then, I heard Finland got rid of snow this year. Apparently it didn't happen at all, which is bizarre. But yeah, so I lived my 20s like people live their 40s, and then my 30s kind of live like my 20s, and maybe my 40s I'm living like I just turned 40. So I'm going to live like my 30s. Doing the opposite. Do it around.
It's a good way to be.
I'm a fucking 40-year-old. I'm wearing basketball jerseys against air.
Boys in the hood.
Like keyboards, and it's just I'm a perpetual teenager. I have like 60 baseball caps, and I'm just.
I've turned 40. We're roughly the same age. I turned 40, whatever, in December or something.
Happy birthday, man!
Thank you. What I'm going to do, my teenage decision is after. I was watching the episode of Rogan with Tony Hawk, and I decided. Do you know who Tony Hawk is?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I didn't know they did.
Yeah,
I never watched that.
Yeah, it was great. Listen to Tony Hawk. And I have always wanted to ride a skateboard. Always, like, it's something I never got to as a kid. I don't know, I was retarded. I had a skateboard, it was shit, and never got to it. And then I became like 20, 25, and I was like, can't do that anymore. And then even now, I was like, I'm 40. What sort of fucking 40-year-old fucking living in the old days is still riding around? I'm with the kids. Like, literally, the meme that describes an old man trying to be with the kids is Steve Buscemi trying to go and, hey, like, he's literally holding a skateboard. The meme that describes an old man trying to be young is a guy holding a skateboard, Steve Buscemi. And I'm like, I can't do it. But then I watched Tony Hawk on Rogan, and Tony Hawk's fucking 51. He is 51 and shredding it. And he's like, don't give a fuck. Just ride a skateboard. It's a good thing to do. You get outside. It's exercise. And I'm like, Tony Hawk, I'm buying that skateboard. I'm 40 and I don't care. I'm going to get a skateboard.
You should. Why not, man? I don't have kids, and I'm probably not gonna have them. And I'm reliving all my favorite things of getting stupid sneakers and hats and basketball jerseys and watching. I'm just like what when I was 12 years old, if I thought like what would my dream be? Like, hey Phil, 12-year-old Phil, what would you want to be like 30 years later? I mean, like, I'm literally living it. I'm my 12-year-old's dream. I fucking skate, yeah, right. Surfboards and a girl on TV with the big boobs. Yeah, I got all that. Just literally, I'm a perpetual child. Yeah, right, all my favorite stuff. Although video games, I'm not into video games, which is when I was a kid, that was like life. Video games.
You should be, bro. Oh, do it, man. Do it. Fucking who cares? That's what COVID showed us. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. What you were saving for your retirement. Maybe you're gonna die. Like, just enjoy it.
My father died. I was 23 when my dad died. He was 56 or so. Died of cancer. Got cancer real quick. Got diagnosed in Finland. Came to visit me my first year in Finland. Came to visit for the first time. Got really sick on the plane. After a few days, we took him to the hospital. They diagnosed him with cancer in the Helsinki hospital. Took him. Last time I ever saw him was at Helsinki Vantaa airport flying home, and he's in a wheelchair now, and they're putting him back on, and that's literally last time died a month later, and that changed when you die at that age. I came up. My parents were the type that was like you get married right out of high school, you buy a house, and you start saving right away, and you live very frugally, and you have your job, and you got family, and then you save, and then the big payoff is when you retire. That's like you're going to move to Florida, because that's what we do in Maryland. You move to Florida, and that's when life really starts. And they're very excited about all that. They had all plans. My aunts and uncles had moved down there, and then he died, and none of that stuff happens. And so I learned to start living and enjoying life now. And if that means buying caps and synthesizers, then that's what I'm gonna do. I worry about if I can make it to 65 and I'm broke but I'm alive and healthy, then we'll chalk that up as a win.
Yeah, so your father had to, like, he was living the socialist dream. He had to come to get the free healthcare in Finland.
I think they charged him. He had insurance.
Oh, right, yeah.
I'm sure that that wasn't free.
They were cashing in on that travel insurance. It is, bro. I wonder about that. Like, why are we waiting till I had this, I know I've talked a little bit about the podcast before, but this discussion with my father where he sort of tries to raise the idea that even though I run a business and there's these things, it's like, what about the retirement? What are you going to do for your retirement? And this was, I mean, more than a year ago. So it's all before COVID taught us that there's possibly no, getting to retirement anyway. And the only way I could explain it to him was, and it's like, I don't want to retire. Like, I don't want to be living month to month and week to week. Don't get me wrong, when I'm 60. But like, my father had a job, and it's a good job. It was a good job, reasonable pay. He liked it. It was a good position. He enjoyed it. He did it for many years. And then there came the time that it's the golden handshake. Thank you very much for your service to the company. And now it's time to retire. And then he retired, and now he's doing all these other great things. He's fishing, and they go on holidays, and the gardening, and he was volunteering for the local bushfire brigade, and these are all great things. This is a great way, right? This is not a bad way to live your life. And I was trying to explain to him that I don't want to retire. Like, okay, what do I want to do? I'm running this company. I'm trying to make my shit. I don't know, do stand-up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, again, not like I want to be 60 and doing stand-up. Possible.
You love what you do for a living. I mean, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
No one loves whatever job your dad had. I'm sure he didn't love it, but you're doing something that you love, and you're building a company. Yeah, I guess that's different.
I want to keep doing it. I don't want to I want to have some savings, but I don't, like, as long as I can write, as long as I can talk, hopefully I've built some credibility by then and people want to read my book or something. I don't know, whatever the fuck the thing is. And that's all I don't know. I can't. I mean, you went to that, you go to the office. Imagine that. You live in Espoo for the rest of your days.
Well, that, when I broke up with my ex and got laid off, I was laid off and I started a new job, and then things were bad. I literally was thinking, like, I'm going to make a career out of comedy. I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity. I'm like, I want to move to LA, because in the States, you either go to New York or LA for comedy, right? You start off in whatever redneck town you're from. Maybe move to one of the larger cities, Portland, Seattle, San Francisco have great comedy communities. Chicago is really great. And then you need to go to LA. Usually if you're more of the actor style comic, you'll go to LA. If you're more of the joke writer type comedian, you'll usually go to New York. But I love California. So I was like, I'm going to move to California, get a writer's job down there, work for a TV show, do the grind, and kind of restart my career. I was like, this is great. I can be poor and I don't have to worry about anybody else, because being poor on your own is fine. But if you got a girl with you and you're poor, then you got a whole another problem, or family or something. So I was like, this is the perfect time. But then you listen to a lot of comics, and they'll always say they're full-time comics. If they could have a 9-to-5, they would totally go back to doing that. Like if they could have just steady income and they don't have to worry about it, they have a job. They would totally go back and do that. They just get to the point where they've been doing comedy their whole lives. They couldn't possibly then go back. Just like I couldn't restart a comedy career at age 30 something. They couldn't start a corporate gig years later. So I guess grass is always greener or something.
It is. There is some combination of that. I mean, and then it's, what's your dedication to the art? Because you got to grind away. Like, it's one thing for me to say that, I'm a comedian and I'm an Estonian and I do this, but I still run the company and I still derive part of my income from running a company and doing admin and helping my sales person do the sales job and helping my project manager do that. And that's still, it's not like, I live all from the jokes and I live all from my ability to write a clever punchline. That's very mixed way that I get that income. Because if you want to just be a performer, you're right, it is hard. Especially got to support somebody. Like, there's one thing I do like about the comedy scene in Estonia. I mean, many things that I like, but like, if you want to be a comedian, you only need, like, if you could live on like $600 a month if you were dedicated to it. If you were like, I'm going to do this, I don't want to take no bullshit job, I'm sick of this, I could just get a little apartment, it's terrible, there's going to be a bed, but it's going to be all right. And, because I'm like working towards something, and that's a nice part of this, that you can still...
But there's comics, the guys that are doing it, then all they write about, because they write about being fucking poor and not getting laid and being broke, and that kind of comedy gets old real quick. Like, I'd open my guys, it's just like, I suck, life sucks, girls don't like me, blah, blah. It's just like, That's, but the same token, my God, I'm sure your comedy career would be over if you suddenly won the lottery. Like, good luck. So then you see the other side. Then you see these comics when they've got the TV shows and they come back and they do stand up and they're just talking about what it's like to have a TV show. Yeah. They make jokes about that. I mean, it's good. You make jokes wherever you're at in life. I mean, I love like Patton Oswalt, one of my favorite comics. That guy, was into him when he was just, living in San Francisco broke and doing that kind of thing. And then he moved and got a show and did girlfriends and dating and then had a baby and then his wife died. Oh my God. He did a comedy special just after his wife died unexpectedly. I was at the show. I've never seen people cry at a comedy show. Literally, like, people are weeping in the audience as he tries to turn his wife's death into something funny, which is amazing to do. But yeah, you just keep writing. That's why I think we have a lot of the comics that I like are the ones that kind of I started with and they kind of got up. Like, that's why I watch a lot of young comics in their 20s, and even especially with Netflix nowadays, it's kind of like another comedy boom almost thanks to Netflix, and everyone can get a special. And it's like, maybe I'm just being an old man now, but some of the younger style, like, it's just not fucking funny. Like, what happened to write a joke, right? A joke.
What do you think about, you commented before that, hey, if you want to do comedy in America, you got to be in New York or LA. They're the main places where it's popping, and that's where it's at. But what do you think about the way that you should, what about like going to a secondary comedy city, maybe Chicago, like I don't know enough about America here, Seattle, another large center where you can get quality stage time, grind away, maybe it's a little bit cheaper to live, and get better before you hit the big center. What do you think about some plan like that?
Yeah, that's a good way. It's almost like the minor leagues of any sports where you like start at the low, and then there's a saying in San Francisco, there's a very popular comedy club here called the Punchline. And it's like, if you're the middle act at the Punchline, you've been here too long. Like that's when you know it's time to move on. And it's kind of a thing. Like, I've achieved, that's the highest you're ever going to get, is going to be a middle act at the Punchline. And then when you're done that, it's time to move to LA or New York. But yeah, that's, you're just going to you need to get better. And the only way is getting better is being surrounded by better comics. And you're going to get only better comedy scene is going to be down. And that's where the jobs are going to be. Like, that's when you're actually going to get stuff. I look at Ismo Leikola. That dude, he is a Finnish comic that's just one of the funniest dudes. And he'd come to our stuff. He'd do it in English. He started practicing. I remember before every show, he'd always come up to me with his notes. He's like, what's this mean word? And then help him with frickin' English. And then he won a comedy competition that was done by one of the famous...
The Comedy Store, isn't
Comedy
it?
Comedy Store, yeah.
Was it the Comedy Store?
Yeah, it was the Comedy Store, yeah. Or was it the Laugh Factory?
No, Laugh Factory. I should know. Do you know the story behind that? That I was the one that entered him into the competition.
Oh, did you really?
The Laugh Factory, but through Comedy Finland, because I had the Comedy Finland website, the Laugh Factory contacted me. I guess they were just like blasting whoever they thought was in international comedy and said, who do you want from your international scene? And I understood I was dog shit, that I would never get anywhere. So I said, okay. I literally went to the internet and I downloaded a video of Andre Wikström, cut it up, put that up, and a video of Ismo Leikola, cut it up, put it up, because I didn't want to tell him to go fuck himself. So I said, well, here's a video of Andre Wikström and Ismo Leikola. Do you want that? Shit. And entered them. And at first, the very first competition, it said Ismo Leikola represented by Comedy Finland, and it said Andre Wikström represented by Comedy Finland. And I remember writing to them going, hey, I don't want to say that I represent Andre Wikström. I don't want to, be out of place. I just entered him, and Ismo went... And I don't know if Ismo kind of knew that or something. I never heard shit out of them about that. To the point where once Ismo won and got representation, and I understand that's out of Ismo's hands. Now then the management kicks in, then there's many more layers that he is not involved with, get involved in this process. I got a YouTube copyright strike on the video that won him the competition that I had submitted.
Oh my God.
I went, okay, we'll take it down. Okay, no problems. So it's fine. It's just, I understand that's the game, baby. that's the process. I'm very happy for Ismo. He's kicking ass. He's a funny guy.
Dude, everyone knows Ismo here. They've all seen his a couple of his bits that he does, the ass one, and then he's just taking English words and turning it into 40-minute specials. But I don't know why that guy, and I've seen him, and whenever he's in town, he lets me know, and he'll get me on the guest list, and I'll go down and see him, and he's killing it with the English audiences, and he's touring. I don't know why he hasn't gotten a special. I mean, he's clearly got enough material to have a special. I mean, there's so much garbage on Netflix, especially a lot of the non-foreign comics. They've been putting a lot of that on Netflix, and it's just not good. But he's legit. I kind of wonder if he's just waiting to, like, you kind of got one shot. Your first special either is going to make or break you, right? You can't put out some crap. So he needs to make it killer. So maybe he's just perfecting it and waiting to hit. But that he's going to, when that special comes out, it's going to be phenomenal. People are going to be quoting it, and he's going to get huge. Yeah, I feel like he got rid of his last name. That must have been I think it's the first thing his manager did. Yeah. Was like, all right, he's already a weird name. We can't even get the Lay Cola, Princess Leia. It reminds me of, like, who was Yakov Smirnoff, like one of these kind of character 80s actors. He even says, and when you see, every time I've seen Ismo, he says, like, this is my real voice. Like, I'm not a fucking character. Like, I talk like this. And I was like, what was that one joke? I forget who used to do it. He used to start off every set by saying, normally I do a comedy in Finnish, but tonight I use Google Translate. That always made me laugh.
He was good, man. I remember,
We got to wrap things up here, man.
Yeah, we do. Joe, we've been talking forever. Sorry, bro.
You got
stuff to do?
Talk for hours.
Yeah, I got to go. It's getting late here as well. But what's on your schedule? What's on your lockdown schedule today?
Dude, I am going to go to work and sit here, which is work. I got some exercise in, and I've had this new passion. I'm really into designing board games and board and card games now. I've always been. Do you remember that? Do you ever play game? I was super into it back in the day.
I'm an only child, so this sounds like nothing I know about.
Oh my god, you poor thing. There's called when I first moved to Finland, I had nothing to do, and I found this group that would play board games. And there was these, we used to call them German games back then. They're called Euro games nowadays because all the designers and publishers were from Germany, and they were really big in Europe. And then they kind of moved to the US. And I've always had a huge collection. I literally have hundreds of boards and card games that I own. And I was always into designing. Even when I was a little kid, I would design shitty games. And so I took it seriously like a couple years ago. I wound up doing less comedy, actually, and then needed something to kind of fulfill that creative vibe. Yeah. And so I meet up with this group every week, and then we design something, and we bring our prototypes, and we like play test them, and we give each other feedback, and we try to help each other. And nowadays with Kickstarters and things, and you can get stuff out there.
That's cool.
I got to get back to designing some prototype I'm working on. That's gonna be, but actually it's very similar. I use the same process I use for comedy as I with board games, and it's tough at the beginning when you don't. Just like when you're a shitty open micer and you have one joke. This is the same thing, but you got to just persevere. It's just work. It's comedy. It's work. It's like keep doing it, keep grinding at it, and something's gonna happen.
I like it.
So so maybe one day I'll have a name on a fucking board game.
Nice, man.
Monopoly 2.0, man.
All right, bro. Well, thanks, man. Yeah, it was fucking cool to catch up. Yeah.
Miss you, bro.
Yeah, man. Okay, as soon as they'll let us fly, I got to come over to San Fran and hang out with you. It sounds great, man.
For real, dude.
All right, bro. All right, we'll end the recording now. All right, well, have a good day, man.
Thanks, homie. That was fun.
Yeah, thanks, dude. All right, bye-bye.
Later.